Good afternoon from the
Good
East
afternoon.
Coast, everyone. How are you today?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Today we welcome to another countdown to launch where we talk about upcoming Kickstarters, and today we have. Oh my God, I've tried practicing this. Marcel
Keuler, yeah.
Coiler. Awesome. So we're going to be talking about his upcoming Kickstarter, Dutch Resistance, Orange Shall Overcome. Now,
Yeah.
how are you doing today? What's going on?
Good, good. I'm busy. I have actually a Dutch crowdfunding campaign going on right now, um, which is going quite well since a few days. Um, so yeah, and that one is doing quite well. So that's one of the things I'm quite busy with for now,
Cool.
and I'm preparing to have a Kickstarter campaign, like a real big English crowdfunding campaign, and I'm planning in October this year. Uh, so yeah, trying to get everything ready for that as well.
Cool, cool. So tell us a little bit more about you and your game that's coming out.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can get it slightly louder though. Sorry for that. Yeah, so I'm making a game about the Dutch resistance during the Second World War. There was not really a game with this specific theme. There are Second World War resistance games like Black Orchestra and Maquis as the two main ones. But they didn't really do what I try to do in my game, both in the way they play as well as the type of stories they make. So I try with my game to do it slightly different. And it's a pick up and deliver game mostly with some resource management, as well as trying to get to use your action points as good as possible. It's a cooperative game, scenario based. So yeah, I think those are the main things in the game with a strong focus on the characters themselves and not really on on the Nazis or anything like that. They're there, of course, because they were occupying, but they're not really the main focus for the stories you're creating, and they're also not. Yeah, they're there to make the difficult things in the game, but yeah, the stories are really made by yeah, by the characters.
Yeah, absolutely. And with this is it's a historical game.
Hmm.
So how much research were you able to do, or did you do to bring this game to life?
Well, I actually did buy 8 books or so again today. So I'm reading a lot of books about all kinds of things related to the topic. And yeah, I'm trying to watch documentaries. I was watching one again like an hour ago. I'm trying to find the sort of hidden gems in a way of stories. Um, yeah, from that period. So I'm doing a lot of research for it.
Awesome, awesome. I was actually curious to know why did you go cooperative versus not
Uh,
cooperative.
yeah, so I was thinking that this game, the theme of this game is really focused, of course, on um, trying as a group of resistance fighters to try to fight against the Nazis. And it is really difficult, I thought, to make it a versus game. Then you might have like groups of resistance fighters fighting against each other, which I thought was not really fitting. I felt it was the best possible style for this theme. Like, um, I was considering a game with a trader element in it, but I thought for the base game, the story and the message I want to have with the game is not about betraying each other, or it's about cooperation and working together to
Yeah,
like fight a bigger evil.
that does make sense. You can't have infighting if you're as a resistance, right? If you're trying to go up against the
Yeah,
higher power, right? You're going against them, and if there's infighting, nothing will ever be
yeah.
accomplished.
Yeah, there was quite a bit, of course, in different groups. They were not all getting along. Of course, they split up in different groups here and there. But yeah, in this specific game, I thought let's not go into that part of. Yeah, let's focus on how some groups actually did manage to work quite well together and accomplish some great things.
Awesome, awesome. Oh, it sounds like you know your stuff, and you're gonna be the resident expert on that time frame real
Yeah,
soon, real soon.
yeah.
How did you get into game design?
Um, I started, funny enough, like as many people, started play Ticket to Ride. I think 4 or 5 years ago now. Yeah, about 5 years ago, and some other gateway games that they're called now. Of course, I didn't know how they were called back then, of course. But so yeah, I started playing those. But after only 1 or 2 months already, I thought, well, I can. Don't think I could do this better, but I think there's a lot of. Even though I didn't know that many games yet, I thought there is better ways to do certain things, and I've always been creative. I always been interested in game design, and yeah, so I thought why not? I used to do a lot of other creative things, and this just came along, and I thought, yeah, let's go and do game design.
Awesome. So this game in particular, how long has it been from your brain to this Kickstarter campaign? What was the timeline like?
I started around November 2017, so
Oh
it will
wow.
be yeah, it will be roughly 4 years. It was the time that my grandmother passed away, so she was 99. At
I'm
that
sorry for your loss.
Yeah, thank you. At that time, and so she was not really in the resistance as in one of the main sort of names in the resistance, but she did help and did do things that the resistance did as well. She helped her neighbors hide, for example. She helped other people where she could. So that sort of inspired me to make a game about this and make this whole period more more accessible in a way for people. Before the year before that, when I was also making games, I was making fantasy games because always liked these kind of themes and like the generic fantasy things. But then I thought I have a history degree, why not make historical games and yeah, work on this kind of theme and I started to work at the as a volunteer at the like at the Dutch Resistance Museum in Amsterdam for a short period, and I thought, hey, there is no game about this topic. Why not? And why not make one? So yeah, I started. I thought I will be done in a year, maybe two max, and now yeah, it will be 4 years. Just trying to get it as good as I can and be
Yeah,
respectful for the people and the stories in there.
yeah.
So yeah.
What an incredible story. So this theme came the theme for you came first, and then the
Hmm.
mechanics came afterwards. This is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
But it sounds like also like a passion project. You have your grandma to think
Hmm.
about as well. Like there's a lot here to unpack for this game. So this game, it's so special to you, and I hear it in your voice. Like this is a special game that you're going to
Hmm.
put out to the world. This is fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in
No, I
with it,
have here also. I'm always sort of. Um, it's always sort of interesting. I like my parents always saved like my first game design from when I was like 10 years old. So when I look here, I still have my huge game from. So it's I officially started sort of 4 years ago, but already when I was quite young, I made games and yeah, then sort of stopped for a long time and then started again. So it's always
yeah,
nice that those things are saved. So then people look back like, what was your first game? And then yeah, they'll probably see this one printed, but then yeah, they don't see all the other failed projects, including the one that I made like 22 years ago.
yeah. What has right? Like there's you can only 22 years ago is probably what like something like card drafting, or you have some cards, and now you probably have this big giant game on a table. Just
Yeah,
the
well, it was
evolution
then.
of
It was yeah, it was then also quite a big, also like a huge board. Like it's like this huge thing that I have here with like it's so yeah, little sneak peek of it. It was huge, but this is a lot better. That's for sure.
yeah. Well, it's coming to Kickstarter, right? There's a reason for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
What was playtesting like?
So the first few months, so I started the basis of the game started when I played games like Dead of Winter, The Captain is Dead, those kind of cooperative games that have these elements in there of they're not too heavy games, but also not sort of light, so that they're a bit in between, in my opinion. Dead of Winter, of course, is semi cooperative, but I liked some things a lot, but there are also things that I didn't like at all. Um, so I had that as a basis. So you really see that in like the first few prototypes when I was playtesting. I was playtesting with people who liked Dead of Winter as well, who liked the other games that were the basis for my current like for the game. Um, and then I slowly changed over time. I went to conventions, showed the game, made adjustments, and then of course after the pandemic, it all went online. Um, but yeah, I've been through quite a few iterations in those four
Wow.
years.
What would you say? Are they your first iteration to the one that's coming to Kickstarter? Are they night and day, or did you keep some core mechanics and it's just kind of slightly shifted?
A bit of both, I think. One of the main things I wanted to have is that there's different locations in the game, and they're still here. Um, I wanted the roads to be always dangerous, which is also still here. The way it functions is totally different from then. And I wanted always on the cards. I wanted to have like a top and a bottom part, because one of the main focus in this game is about people who are hiding, and I thought it looked sort of interesting if the top part is like what the Germans see, and the bottom is like what people who know about the secret places know, and what they see. So like you have a bit of this shift in between the top and the bottom part of the yeah. So those are some of the things that stayed the same, but many other things are completely different. And sometimes when I think, oh, it didn't really change in the last year, but then when I look at some files from a year ago, I thought, no, actually it did change quite a bit.
All right, all right. Again, I love dual purpose cards, so I'm looking forward to
Yeah,
seeing those because it sounds like a game that I'm gonna absolutely have to play.
for sure.
Since 2017, I mean, this game has been in the making for quite some time.
Hmm.
What has been the most difficult thing for you during this whole process?
Um, I think there were two things that were difficult. One is to stray true to history as much as possible while still not making it a game where it takes you 3 weeks just to get through the rule book. Like I tried to get it, sort of try to get everything as abstract and correct while still getting the theme. Like I was very happy that often the feedback I got, even when I was not happy, is like, yeah, it feels very thematic, and I was always happy to hear feedback like that. Yeah, which I heard most of the time. So that was a bit of a challenge. The other challenge also was, or what I had most difficulty, that it felt for me that it felt right. So not only that it felt sort of good historical thematic, but also that I felt I could make the stories I want to make with this game. That I could, if people put the game down, that they think about history, but that they still had fun. I also wanted to make sure that it's not. Sometimes when you hear educational or historical games, there's some stigmas here and there about it, like, oh, yeah, that it either it's big rule books or that it's not really fun. Like, yeah, you have to learn something at the end, and it's not
Yeah,
really my focus. My focus is really on making a game that is fun and engaging. And as a side note, you also learn something from it. I started to call it sort of accidental educational, something like that. But people didn't really like the term, so I dropped it. But I think like or unintentionally educational, like um, for example, like all the character cards that I have in the game, like this is what you see when you play the game. You don't really need any of the things. But here on the back side is like a small biography of my grandmother, what she did. So all the characters have this option if you just turn over a card, if you just read somewhere, but you don't have to. Like it's not,
yeah.
you don't have to be a big fan of the theme to really enjoy it. I think personally.
Do Do you have any other family members in the game that are represented other than your grandmother?
No, so it's my grandmother's character because she told me the most about it. But both but also my grandfather was they were already they got married during the war. They were already together, so it's a bit of both.
Okay.
But I am planning to put a few more names of my family members in there here or there without
Okay.
being obvious for people who play the game. Like my grandfather was name was Paul, so if I might have a character that's called another character like on a card, someone named Paul, and then for any other person it looks like a normal name, but I know that it's sort of representing my grandfather, for
Right.
example. So I'll probably try to do it in such a way that for nobody else sort of thinks like, oh, why, that they feel that I made the game only for myself, because that's obviously not the case, but that yeah, that I still can put it in there here or there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this game, it takes place in you have it's not nonfiction because again you're doing
Yeah,
all this research, but most of the characters are going to be fictional within your game.
no. So actually, which I think is also interesting. So one of my main focuses at the start of the game, I kept them fictional because I wanted to be um, the family members and other people who could say something about the legacy of certain people. I wanted to keep that intact and want to be respectful. So I kept it first as mostly fictional characters, and then I started to reach out to family members of actual other resistance fighters who were more known, who I could get in contact with. So now all the characters are people who were actually resistance fighters during the time. Two of them are still alive. The rest either died during the war or some point after the war.
Okay. Okay. Because that's actually that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool that you're keeping everything not nonfiction actually. Which again, I think it sounds like you have just going for nonfiction sounds like an arduous task. Like just making sure everything is so accurate. So again, I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking forward to seeing and knowing if, when I play this game, everything that is in this game has happened at one point in time.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
what I try to do as a basis, because some, as I said, some things have to be abstract, but I try to see, okay, does it happen at least once during the war or something similar, and try to mix them all together. Like the 9 characters, they're all from across the country, even though the country is relatively small. Like most of them have never met each other. Some might have met each other here or there, but most of them, yeah. So at that point, it's not really, it's non-fictional in a
Yeah.
way. Partly the story that you make while playing. At the same time, many of the cards, they're based on what happened or could have happened, like a curfew, for example, on a card. Like I try to make the times correct, but also some things shifted, of course, in those 5 years. So some things could have been true in 1 year and totally not true the year before or the year after. So it also, I try to keep all those periods and mix them up a bit so that it fits for the game, even though it might not be fully correct. So I try to be always a bit in between. So people, if they say, yeah, this or that is not historically correct, I could either say, yeah, well, there's at least one story, or it's at least based on this one story or element that actually did happen. So
I want to ask you about because I'm in America.
mm-hmm.
Um, what is the significance of the color orange? I see you're wearing it. It's
Yeah,
orange shall overcome. Can you talk about that, please?
yeah. So the royal family of the Netherlands, they're called. I have to think always how it's called in England, but they are the kings and queens. I have to think of Orange. Like their last name basically is Orange, so it's
Okay.
sort of a interesting mix of using the name and the color together as the, so it became sort of the royal color. That's why it's orange. And during that time, the royal family fled to England, but they still try to support the Dutch people. They had radio broadcast every quite often, every day or every week. And it was also called Radio Orange. And Orange Shall Overcome was one of the things that they many resistance fighters put on the walls as a small act of resistance to show the Germans, yeah, we're not really supporting you at all. So yeah, so that's why I took the name. I thought it's fitting. It's also based on what the resistance did, even though it's like it's not the same, of course, as helping someone to hide, but it's the small things that could still make a difference for someone who's walking on the street thinking, yeah, we're still trying to fight this oppression, this
Yeah.
occupation
Little
force.
little glimmer of hope.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I did not know that.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
It's been difficult. What is a good fitting name? Many people thought about football, which is also often orange, and other people thought about, for some reason, even Trump for a second because he has something with orange I didn't even know. So that's why I added Dutch resistance in advance in front of the name just to make sure that everybody knows. So yeah, and I thought, it's sort of fitting. I thought I will show
Yeah.
wear orange as much as I can. And the hat is my grandfather's hat from roughly around that time, maybe slightly after. So I also often wear it for these kind of meetings, so that if people were wondering, like, why is he wearing a hat that looks quite old? Well, because it's probably older than you and us, our ages both together. So yeah, I thought it's fitting for these kind of things.
Awesome. Well, it looks good on you. It looks
Thank,
good on you.
thank.
I did want to ask you because you've been game design for such a long time. How
Mhm.
do you get your ideas for your games?
Uh, well, that's also a bit of a theme first thing in a way. And I'm doing a few times a week playtesting. So sometimes it's just other designers who give ideas when I play test with other designers or with other people. I think, why is there not this or that in the game? For example, all the soldiers and all the policemen on the roads, they're always standing still until recently, when quite often I heard people, yeah, why are they not moving around patrolling? I thought, yeah, in my opinion, it didn't make full sense. But because I got all these people saying, yeah, you should have districts or stuff like that, it now has it in the game. But I came to a point, as you often hear, of course, that you don't really know, okay, what can I adjust? What can I change? Like I didn't really have writer's block, but I felt the game is not, all the feedback was positive, but I was not happy with some elements in the game. So I managed to hire quite a few other game designers and game developers to think, okay, how can I make this game better? For example, I managed to hire Jonathan Gilmour, who of course made Dead of Winter. So I was really happy that someone who made the game that was basically the basis of this game to think, okay, how can I make this game even better? And yeah, with someone who has such experience and insights, and hear what they think. If they also still think it's good and interesting.
That's awesome. You're able to hire him.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
did a lot shift from his feedback, or did he really like what he saw, or was it a mix of both?
And he was quite positive, actually. Yeah, a little bit a mix of both. One of the main things I had difficulty with also until recently was that the roads in the game on the map are dangerous, but the locations where you are didn't really feel that dangerous. So it was like, okay, if I just stay put, nothing really happens in a way. Um, I tried together with him to find an option as to how can we make those also interesting. And it was very black and white at first, like either they're safe or not safe. And now I managed to add like a little scale. I also hired Jay Comier as well, and I talked with him also, like how can we make this a more interesting concept. And I think I have this now where at the end of a round, where you are gets more dangerous, and other effects in the game also make where you are dangerous. So just staying there for too long automatically leads to some danger. So you don't want to stay too long at the same place, basically, because they will find you and figure out what you're doing.
Okay. Do you have anything else next to you that you may want to give us a little sneak peek of?
Yeah. So one of the things I think this card, for example, this artwork, I don't know if you can see it well, but I think this one is very cool. This is one of my favorite ones in a way. And it has again a bit of a gem for my own. This is the Dutch card, by the way. I recently printed it again in Dutch for this Kickstarter, the crowdfunding I'm doing. But this is a tram based on how the trams looked like in that time. And I used to live in Amsterdam for a few years. So it's a tram line that passed my own house. So again, it's a little thing but nobody noticed. Like you just see a tram, but if you don't know. And one of the things I did check, for example, for a picture like this, to see is there no historical bad things connected to the tram line or to the tram. Like there is some tram lines, of course, that transported Jewish people from the place they were gathered to a station to be transported to a concentration camp. I didn't want to have a tram with that number on there or that, so it took me a few days to just research to make sure that these pictures are as much as I can to that they're correct with
Yeah,
those things
that
as well.
absolutely makes sense. Absolutely makes
Yeah.
sense. Well, I have one more question for you before we wrap for my afternoon and your evening, early evening,
Yeah, it's
where you can play some more
it's exactly
games.
something. Yeah.
Awesome. When do you launch?
So I am planning to launch around half of October.
Okay.
I was originally thinking August, but since I made quite a few big changes in the game, I want to make sure that I rebalance it well enough, and I don't want to sort of put it out too quickly because of that.
Okay.
So I'm trying to put it at the same time as Spiel this year because that is hopefully still happening physically.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I thought to do it around that. I'm just trying to tweak which week it will which week exactly. If it will be like a week before it starts or directly after, or probably not the day or 1 or 2 days before it starts because I'll probably be too busy preparing it. But yeah, that is the day. I have one other interesting sneak peek though, because Kickstarters often do very well with miniatures. I am trying to get these are some like German miniatures they're not final miniatures per se because I managed to order them, but they're the basis of what I want to make. So there's like a German that is pointing and shouting with a machine gun. Um, well, I have another one walking around with the gun on his. I don't know how well you can see it, but with the gun on his back, and then I have policemen as well, miniatures that are also walking around. So those are the two main danger levels for the game. Um, so yeah, that is cool. And the focus, which was another basis for the game, at some point the focus of the game is non-violent, which is a bit of a shock for many people. Having a Second World War game without a focus on violence. I mean, you have soldiers and policemen as a danger, but there's no words, the guns, no shooting, no nothing directly. It's more indirect danger and threats, because I wanted to make a game that is not about violence, but about how do I live in an occupied country without, being seen, being noticed. More of a spy kind of thing, more than like an armed resistance that you have in all these other games, like a Black Orchestra and Maquis both have fighting, shooting, killing. This game has nothing of that, at least in the base game. I might have expansions where you do have, because it did happen in the Netherlands, but much less. So I wanted to really focus on what is sort of the most iconic things of the Dutch resistance. How can I put that into an interesting, fun game?
Yeah.
So yeah.
There is something more about the threat of danger
Mm-hmm.
versus being like, oh my god, I'm in danger. Like just trying to not be in danger, I think
Mm-hmm.
heightens the gameplay a little bit more so than just direct combat. That's me
Yeah,
personally. So that sounds awesome.
yeah. I also made, and again, this is in Dutch, but you get the idea. What I'm working on as well now is the last sort of change as well. Like the story, I have like a little flavor text. It used to be just flavor text, but now it's like, okay, what do I do, A or B? So really trying to think and I try to hire some. Um, I have some people help me with investments as well as this Dutch crowdfunding to make sure that I can hire some experts to do these things. But they are stories on there. And so you really have to think that, for example, a story that says that, yeah, you see your neighbor being taken away by some German soldiers. You might be able to save them, but it might mean that you will get arrested either immediately or soon after. What do you do? Do you pass by or do you go and help this person? Those are the type of choices. And obviously that translates then to losing things like alibi and it. But those kind of stories I try to make, those kind of choices, like, am I really going to leave my neighbor or being arrested, or do I just walk on knowing that it will probably give me nightmares knowing that this person might be sent to a camp or not survive the war because I decided not to help.
How
um,
long is the gameplay?
so of course I've been playtesting a lot online. It usually takes a bit longer there, but the aim is 60 to 90 minutes.
Okay.
Of course the first time you play, often a game takes a bit longer, but on average it should be 60 to 90 minutes.
Okay.
What you also maybe is good to know as a last other scoop in a way, they're also working. I got contacted a few months ago to make a movie out of the game. So they will, So we're working on a actual 1.5 hour movie, just about the, where the game is the big basis of it. So I cannot tell enough or not much about it yet, but we'll
Yeah.
have some famous actors from the Netherlands who agreed to be in the movie. We have some director and producers that all have some experience making movies. So it's not a let's make this movie in a day kind of project. It's quite a big project with some really cool things in there with the basis of the game. A bit of a Jumanji style type of game is what you could movie, but then really focused on this game at this time period. So
That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like you have all sorts of cool things going on
yeah,
with this board game coming to life.
yeah,
So
for
I want to
sure.
thank you for just sharing what I think it sounds like just a deeply emotional and it's just inspiring thing with me right
Mhm.
now because there's just again so much to unpack that you just did with us here. Um, but I mean, it definitely sounds like you're gonna have another game at some point soon, and we're gonna do this again and have another
Yeah, for sure.
conversation about one of your other games.
for
But
sure.
yeah, so thank you again. But until we do this again, happy gaming.
Thank you. Thank you. You too. Bye bye.
Bye.